which dead person got land? Specifically.
Abraham.
Abraham.
Well, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Let's put an arrow.
And so on.
And so on and so forth. They could put an infinity symbol, but,
Mhm.
so,
And why would they want it, I guess? They,
Because God promised it to him.
why would they want it?
If they're resting peacefully. Why do you want land?
don't disturb them.
Because God gave it to him.
Because God gave it to
Bother
them,
them,
yeah.
they're dead.
But they had ancestors,
I
right?
think it's because they were looking ahead, they were looking to their offspring to leave something, they were, you
Who's
know,
they?
all those dead people,
All these people over here, all these people here.
both ways, they were,
When was this land given to Abraham? Before or after he died?
before,
Before, they got the promise.
But was, did he get to
promise,
go
oh,
there?
before, it was actually given to him, that, he still hasn't gotten it yet.
The inheritance was given to him
Right.
before he died.
Right.
But he has
Promise was
received
given
it.
to him.
He got to be a pilgrim in his own land,
Yeah.
so he wasn't the king of every people, he was the.
I think there's a place in there that says that they would receive it later. And so that means that they had
To
to
your
be
descendants after you. is what it says.
resurrected to receive it.
Well, said to you and your descendants.
In this area where they were planted, wasn't that where they lived in the land?
When he had Abraham move up from Ur.
No, where he was buried,
Yes.
Abraham.
he was planted in that.
Mhm.
Right.
But
Back
I
up.
think he is going to be resurrected and receive it, really. I think that it has a dual meaning, but one of the meanings is he will receive it. And so he obviously has to be resurrected by God to receive it. So it is promised to you.
There's an implied resurrection at least.
Or
Right.
he has received it spiritually, just not physically.
Mhm.
You gotta know the physical before you reach the spiritual.
Sure.
So there is, yeah.
Well, and he did
There's-
spend
there's a
time
dual
in that
meaning
land.
in there.
He has to receive for the prophecy, for the promise to be true, he has to receive it.
Right. And his descendants.
And so he has to be resurrected to receive it now.
All of his bones are there.
Yeah,
A lot of bones are there, but you're right.
there is
He's
no
not,
land.
as I think you said, Deanna, he's not, we're not king over the land yet. He's not ruling the land, not fulfilling the purpose that God put in place. There's
He's
a lot of
not.
other people there right now.
And it says that
He's not gonna
David
be
would
the king.
rule. So David has to
David
be
is
resurrected
the
in order to
king. Yeah.
rule.
Rule.
Wait, David did rule.
Yeah, but
He did, and he
he
will.
prophesied in Ezekiel that he would rule again, which was several hundred years after.
The seed of David, right?
The son of David.
So not
Root
David.
of David,
This is my
Because
servant
David
will
didn't
rule.
rule.
servant David.
This is my
A
servant.
lot of pictures.
Yeah.
So, how do we give land to a dead person? Is that possible?
Make him undead.
Make him undead, but
Um,
not zombified,
Yeah, not something like
resurrect him to
I
life.
just don't know that.
All right.
what's the,
And then this,
but wait,
why?
where's, but the answer to your question,
Yes.
I think there is an actual word, like a legal term, that says you're, like a will.
a will, yeah,
That's what I'm
testimony.
thinking of, is the will, a will.
Testimony.
There's a will
Inheritance.
that's established, you know, an inheritance.
Yeah. Which we know inheritance is, basically from beginning to end, is all about inheritance.
Mhm.
Co-heirs, sons.
They talk about it, inheriting the kingdom.
Why does God call us his inheritance? Like,
What's that big box?
he owns the whole world, why does he use the term
No.
inheritance for us?
Only the Levites is considered his inheritance,
Okay, well, I mean, well, why though?
because they're from the order of Melchizedek, they're from the heavenly priesthood. They are,
Not the Levites.
The Levites aren't.
No, the Levites aren't.
but they're a copy of the Melchizedek.
Right.
That-
That's
They just- they
a
just
big
screwed it
difference.
up.
That's a, yeah.
That's a big
But-
difference. They're a
but
copy of
the-
where they're from. That's a
But
big
there's an
difference.
eternal covenant with the Levites, it says that.
Right,
Right.
And
For-
But the question is
they
why?
will always,
for an earthly priesthood.
How's it?
But they will, they
Thank
said
you,
that
Shirley.
they will help run the temple when God comes.
Right.
Or
Right.
whatever they got.
Shirley gave us the answer. Why?
Why what?
Why?
God promised.
It was God's purpose. It's his promise.
Purpose.
Right, I guess what I'm saying is, why is God using the term, God owns and created everything in the universe? Why is he using the term, okay, out of everything, you're my inheritance? Why doesn't he own everything? I'm just,
He does.
But they're special,
there
they're,
doesn't have to be.
But
a
they're
right
like
answer
us.
here.
Here's
Set apart.
a question for you. Is that word inheritance that's used there for him or for us to understand?
Us.
I don't know. Obviously.
We understand inheritance. We understand inheritance. Personal opinion, it's so we'll understand what he's talking about. Why he uses the word inheritance.
yeah,
He
because
uses
Levites
something-
have no portion in the land.
It's something we understand. Yeah, there's no portion of the land, so that we can kind of put a picture on it, but it's because of purpose. All right.
And you know what, I was thinking about that this morning, about 10:15.
Well, you got to go back
Did you
home.
send a text, Jay?
Wrong with Steve.
I don't know what I had to do.
Never mind, it just went away. It was about the Levites. Oh, that's what it was. If we're called to be a kingdom of priests, that makes us Levites.
No,
Nope.
because if we're after the order of Melchizedek, Yeshua came from Judah.
Mhm.
So it's a whole kingdom of priests, not just one tribe.
Yeah.
Remember, there are a lot of duties for priests.
Yeah, they have to control the sacrifices.
Well, and one
But
thing
also,
that
you
this,
think about it, there's this town, and 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 so on and so forth, where there are people there to give guidance, because not everybody's in Jerusalem all the time, at the temple. There are smaller governments, if you, I don't like using that term, but that's kind of what it was.
And you've got to realize that when Christ comes, there are going to be plenty of people like us throughout the world. Because it says that those who sin would not be allowed into Jerusalem. Or they say, if you're a drunkard or blah, 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 you've got to quit being this in order to be allowed into Jerusalem. So if you're not, and also if you did not bring your sacrifices at the Feast of Tabernacles, you would not receive rain the entire year. So obviously there are people on the earth when Christ is ruling for the 1,000 years. And during that 1,000 years, they have to have people go out to those people that are not in Jerusalem too. So there has to be a priesthood, or those who help the priesthood, and these will be the Levites.
The assistants
The
to the
assistants.
priesthood.
Jimbo,
you know, I think though, one of the things that I've always associated with the difference in the Melchizedek priesthood is that one of their functions is to offer up sacrifices daily, themselves as sacrifice. You know, it's one of the distinctions that they make between the Levitical priesthood. They offered up animal sacrifices versus the Melchizedek priesthood, who, of course, Yeshua is the head priest. He offered himself a personal sacrifice, personally offered himself as sacrifice, and encourages us to die daily, to take up your cross and die daily, and offer yourself as a willing sacrifice. So there's a huge distinction, and so those things will probably still continue in that. I mean,
I think so.
it won't be a dying sacrifice in that same sense, but it's to sacrifice yourself to that purpose, or if you will, or to, you know, those purposes of that priesthood.
to be the rejects over here
Yeah, thank you. Exactly.
with the king.
Right.
Probably saw that picture last week.
Yeah.
And Gabriel, I think, one thing, just thinking about the Levites, as it says in Ezekiel, the Levites are the only ones, and only one specific clan of Levites will be in the holy place performing those functions.
Right.
So I think that inheritance it's a closer, not a closer bond, but there's a special set apart purpose. And them being his inheritance, I think means he's gonna take care of them because they're not gonna have land and crops and all these things to take care of themselves.
It was one of the defining things that he said initially when
Right,
he said, you know, you will be my portion,
right.
and, you know.
And we think of that as, you know, we belong to him, well, he's also gonna take care of that portion through the interaction of the rest of the body. Yeah.
My question, I have two questions, but they're related.
Okay.
It had to do with his, claiming that a couple of words weren't really what we say they are, so
Mhm.
I don't have my interlinear.
Right.
view.
Yeah.
The first one in Genesis 4:26.
Okay, let me go there. 4:26.
And Mr. Gillard spoke to
And
the
what-
computer,
what
but we
verse?
have that Power Bible on that, so we can start.
Verse
putting it on there for our
4:26.
after study.
I've got it on my laptop as well.
And all of it can see it.
Yeah.
And he was looking at what to
He
be.
said, and men began to call upon the name of the Lord, and he says, call upon is actually curse.
The name meant to call, kara, through the idea of accosting, the primitive root, a primitive root rather identical with 7122, okay, kara, through the idea of accosting a person met, to call out to address by name, but used in a wide variety of applications, beret, that are bidden, call forth, cry, famous, guest, invite, mention, preach, proclaim, pronounce.
Those are all the ways it's translated.
Yeah, and the root that they're talking about, kara, to encounter, whether accidentally or in a hostile manner, befall. So to befall, you know, to encounter, fall out, happen to meet. And to Seth, to him also there were born a son, and he happened to meet or accidentally met a son, and he called him Enos. This is for
Don't know if that answers the question.
Any curse in that?
That muddy
Curse,
water.
cursing is different, at least the way I understand it from,
Well, they could be accusing God of not doing what they wanted done.
that's calling a curse on yourself essentially.
The other verse, he said that flies were actually beasts.
Yeah, and mine,
Exodus 8:21.
and mine actually translate them as more of a generic, it actually says mosquitoes, but the idea of swarms, swarming things. Now, you know, again, we're talking basic, you know, whatchamacallit,
Strong.
Strong's, so we know it has its limits also. He may be,
But it's still like an insect.
it
flying
actually
thing.
says mosquitoes
Jasher
rather than flies.
mentions that multiple types of bugs, and so it seems to allude to that as well, that it gives not just like a locust, it says there's
Swarming things.
It's like it lists like 5 differences, all the breeds of locust, and it, in other words, it places, it talks about the creeping things, it was just all of what's around.
Well, which, you know, you think about
In
it,
other
what
words, it's still
swarming
something
things.
that's flying or swarming. It's not a beast, like he was trying to say in Revelation.
I would question the idea of, we don't normally consider beasts swarming.
Well,
Swarming really tends to do with flying, usually flying insects to me.
Flying or swimming.
there was a
Swimming,
verse,
yeah.
I didn't bring that with me, that says that they came in the house and destroyed their houses, and I think that was referring to, you know, cattle, beast type thing. It also mentions some, it's a strange name that I couldn't find a reference to, but like a sea creature comes out upon the.
Hey, that'd be a good reference point for you, if you look at that word and compare it to Genesis 1 and then compare it to Leviticus 11, you'll kind of put some,
And we're talking about which word in what,
this word for swarming, the flies.
in Genesis,
Anyway, so the water's still muddy, but thank you.
uh-huh.
But the point is,
As long as it's not bloody.
The main thing to think about is it,
Genesis, yeah, Genesis.
is the goal of searching this out, knowing whether it's flies or bees.
Scott,
Well, I think
It's
in a way it
Exodus
gives more
8:21.
understanding if you know.
Okay, what's the ultimate goal?
Or, see, and it's
To have
funny.
understanding.
For what purpose?
Relating it to Revelation or what will happen.
For what purpose?
Also, we'd like to know what
Open your
God
eyes.
he
History
was
repeats
is
itself.
coming down on.
Well, why do we want to know that?
Don't do it again.
Exactly. And who else doesn't do it again?
Those next to us.
What's next?
Actually, yeah, what he's saying might be correct. It's the word arad. One of the other translations, when you change the vowels of that, is ored, which is a raven. So, the idea of, like a swarming, picking at your bird. So, I mean, taking it a little bit further.
a raven's a bird of prey.
Right. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's fine.
Also, it would give us a better idea of which God he's referring to in that, because each one of these 10 were God.
Right?
What, they poo or something?
Yeah, what were the gods? And how do you compare it in Revelation, what gods are being smited in Revelation?
Where is Facebook in Revelation?
Yeah.
Where is money in
Where's San
Revelation? Where is
Francisco?
internet
Where's
in
Dallas
Revelation? Where is
Cowboys?
TV? Where is the, yeah, where are the Dallas Cowboys in Revelation? Where are all these?
Loser.
We got
It's not there.
a billion gods.
Yeah.
But the whole point is,
So.
as we trying to draw it out, our focus doesn't need to be, is it bees or flies? Although that will give us understanding. Our focus is, it's coming again. We need to tell people what's coming. We need to at least have some kind of understanding that what happened before is gonna happen again. You can choose.
Where is that scripture that says, what happened to the fathers will happen to the children?
Think of,
Jimbo looked that up.
which, I'm sorry?
I looked at Malachi Day.
Yeah, yeah, where's Goshen? Is that another question?
Yeah.
Sure.
What happened in the past?
What happened to the fathers will happen to the children.
Oh, Malachi?
Is it Malachi?
No, what happened, that
What
will
happens to
return
the
the
fathers?
fathers to the children,
She said the frogs.
and the children to the
Frogs
fathers.
for gods and fertility.
That's turning the hearts
So
back.
then
Yeah.
applying that
But it
to
says,
the
and I think it's in the
frogs
Torah,
coming out of the beast,
what happened to the
prophet,
fathers
and
shall
the
happen to the children.
Beast, the prophet.
Boy, now that one I don't think
Go
I've
to the
ever.
Power Bible.
About the beast.
I have found it before, and I've got it
Right,
marked.
the beast and the prophet.
I don't have time to go through the whole
So
story.
how, see, in my mind, I'm thinking of those as falsehoods. Does that connect to the god of fertility? And how?
Sounds like a homework assignment.
Well, it's pointed,
Jay had something over here. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's fornication, but,
It is.
It's coming out of their mouth, that
fornication.
means speaking. So,
I'm not sure how that relates to fertility,
You're not.
Oh,
I'm pretty
Jay,
sure
no,
I know how it relates.
that's Exodus 20.
All right, shh, Jay.
I really enjoyed the, pork cup.
Me too.
That was
20 what?
bringing that into this. I never saw it before, and I thought that was really, really good as far as the Passover and the pork cups, the bondage, the judgment, burdens, and all that.
Yeah.
That,
The iniquities.
I can see many conversations with other people that could be
Absolutely.
reused. I thought, and Mark made mention of this, but it really didn't make a whole lot of sense. The magicians of Egypt
It's not the one
did
with-
3 different things.
Right.
They, where the rod was thrown down, turned to a snake or crocodile or whatever it was, and the magicians did the same.
Right.
And then they turned more water into blood. And then they made more frogs.
Right.
Okay? Those are the 3 things magicians could do, but when it got to the light, they ran out of whatever they ran out of.
Yeah.
Why was that, what was the reason, the proof, validity? I'm just trying to.
If you can make a snake, you can make flies, right?
Well, you know,
Yeah.
in some ways, it's a discredit to the miracle of that. But yet, the snake, and the rod of the snake was, even though it was a miracle, was not a plague.
Right.
And yet, the blood was a plague, and the frogs were a plague on that. And then I kept thinking, well, the first three, the Israelites also had to take, but, you know, they were subject to the same plague.
Right.
So I was just trying to throw all that together, and it was like, some of this didn't all fit. So I'm asking for insight. Does anybody, or am I just rambling and need to hush?
I kind of think it's just a foreshadowing of, you know, we know that there's the false prophet and the false beast, they're gonna be able to do false miracles. And I think Pharaoh looked at that, well, they can do the miracle too, so why should I pay attention to Yahweh?
Because he presumed that ours were false miracles like theirs were.
But again, you know, I still have the question, why did he only limit them to 3? Why did, they were obviously in working false miracles. But then, so God allowed them to do at least 3. But then why did he stop them there? Why did he not allow them to continue with their false miracles?
Well,
Hold on, Fred, hold on.
Because God
Jim said his
stopped.
hand
You know,
was back
the
there.
one thing that hit me about that though is, the only thing they were able to do actually was curse.
Right. It was an.
They don't heal in any way, shape, or form. The only thing they were able to duplicate are curses. Like he said, like Merrick Biltz, he made the point. He said, well, they didn't take the frogs away.
Yeah.
I mean, now that would have been miraculous. Oh, yeah, my guys are more powerful than you or your God, because our God can get rid of your plague. You know, all they could do was plague.
It's just like Aaron's rod ate the other.
Right, exactly right.
Show,
And
Shows
show
power.
Right.
authority.
Yeah,
Yeah.
authority.
also, the first 3 were to get the Israelites' attention. If no plague had ever hit them, they wouldn't have had near the attention as they did when those frogs and the blood hit them. But when then all of a sudden, he started separating them, then they says, it's our God that's doing it. That got their attention. Also, it got the world's attention. He could separate them if he wanted to.
And the other thing that kind of wasn't really talked about a whole lot here, but it's something that I kind of look behind the scene here and I think about it, you know, if you wanted, Gabriel, if you wanted to, a policeman comes in here and he says something to you, you kind of look at him as an authority. Or if the mayor or one of our Congress or one of our council members, you know, they've got some pull around here. They tell you to do something, you know, you try to do it. Or if you go to our governor or one of the senators or congressmen, you know, they got a little bigger stick.
Or if Jay calls you for lunch.
Yeah. But,
Jill, check on my roast.
I'm doing, thank you. Well,
from there, you know, we have people of authority. And it goes all the way up to our congressmen, our senators, our president, all of them. But God was telling Aaron, you go tell him this. Now, when I'm going to deliver a message from God, you're talking about having some confidence. I didn't hear from this policeman or this governor or this whoever, Yahweh. I mean, that to me the magnitude of that is all skipped over in this.
Yeah, you're right.
And yet, he goes up there with his little stick.
Going to Pharaoh for crying out loud.
He's a
It's
God.
like,
He's a
well,
God.
we're gonna have a talk. And God told me to tell you this.
Let your workers go.
So, all that was kind of just,
Yeah.
it's in the scriptures, but it's like, do we really see the magnitude of this?
And if God came to you and me and said, Jay, Phil,
I
go to
will be on my
Obama and have a
face.
chat. Yeah.
I will be scared, speechless.